Hey folks, welcome to the channel. My name is JP, and in this video we're going to have a look and I'm going to get you up and running with Loopy Pro. Loopy Pro is the successor to Loopy and Loopy HD and is made by a tasty pixel, otherwise known as Michael. Loopy Pro is a professional looping and sampling application with loads of features on its own and lots of room for integration with things like AUV3 plugins and other DAWs. But just on its own, it has the potential to completely change the game for looping, whether that's recording your loops, whether you're at home or you're live on stage. All from the power of an iPhone or an iPad. Now, although Loopy Pro is the pro version of Loopy HD, it's not just Loopy HD on steroids, even though it is. It's been built from the ground up. It's got a brand new audio engine. And when we get into this, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what we can do from it right from the get-go, but also how customizable it is. Then I'm going to show you how we can actually record our performance and rearrange it using the built-in DAW system. Now, at the time of recording this is a beta, but it's in the very last stages just before it's about to be released. And I want to give a shout out to both Michael and the Loopy Pro community who've been helping Michael with the beta. It's been a huge journey for him, and it's something that he's been envisaging for over 7 years. And we've been waiting a long, long time, but believe me, you're not going to be disappointed. Right, let's jump in. Now, when you first launch Loopy Pro, you're going to get this. This is the default setting you're going to get when you first launch Loopy Pro as it currently stands right now, and you're presented with 10 circles. It looks incredibly familiar to Loopy HD. Now, if I was to turn the iPad, it would look exactly the same, but obviously rearranged for both landscape or portrait. For these examples, I'm going to stay in landscape mode. Let me show you where things are, and let's have a run round the user interface. Starting at the top left-hand corner, this is where your projects are. Now, if you don't actually name your project, Loopy Pro actually names them and gives them really funny names, but you can have a brand new project, you can save a project. If you've got audio in there or you've designed something, you can duplicate that project and you can export it. At the bottom is where all your projects live, and you can see that I've been playing with it for a little while. You've got also your recordings, and then you've got media where you can also import audio as well. So say you've got loops that are from maybe a loop station or a digital audio workstation, you can bring them in. To get out of this menu, tap anywhere outside of that box. Next door to the folder is two arrows. There's a back arrow and a forward arrow. This is undo and redo. But they go much further than that. When you start putting things in, you can undo multiple times and redo multiple times, and there's a history for that, which is fantastic. Next door to that is the play button, and this will actually start the loop off. We've got nothing recorded at the moment, so it won't start. On the top right-hand corner, we've got three icons. We've got record, we've got three little dots, and we've also got this menu bar. The record is actually two different things. You can either record the audio as you were able to do in Loopy HD, and you can record it like a performance. Or now what you can do is you can record into the sequencer and open up this recording into the sequencer. So as you trigger things and record things, it records it live as you're playing it. The three tiny little dots next door to record is actually everything to do with the audio detection and also the beat length. So this is where you can set up things like 4/4, or you've got loads of different tempos. You can actually have full settings for the metronome, the quantization, the synchronization, the detection range between so many beats per minute. And then as you're using it, if you want to put things in, so if you've done a 2-bar loop, you want to do a 4-bar loop, you can just hit times, or you can go to 4 or 8 or 16, etc. This is also where the metronome lives, and we've got the metronome itself, and we've also got a flashing metronome, which flashes up just like Loopy HD did. On the right of that is our menu, and this is where we've got lots of different things. This is our main menu for settings. We've got clip settings, we've got color groups, we've got MIDI control, synchronization, metronome, system settings, then we've got MIDI, and we've got Bluetooth devices as well. Now, when you jump into a menu, one thing that's really, really obvious is how quick Loopy Pro is. So I'm just going to click on clip settings now. Did you see that? It's so really, really quick. So this menu comes up, everything to do with clip settings, and you can see there my audio, my voice is going in through the microphone. And there's loads of things there, like what to do when you're using play or stop, or is it going to be a one shot? But then if I click close, it just bounces straight back. It doesn't go back to this menu, it goes right back to where you would be performing. I just wanted to note that because it's so unbelievably quick to go from one thing to another. And that happens also while you're playing stuff as well. Color groups is something that's brand new and it's really important, but we're going to go into it in a little while because I want to show you the power behind this app. So let's get a quick loop down now, and then we can start playing with it. So straight away you can see the animation there is really lovely, and as I play around, you've got this kind of animation going around the loop itself, and then also you can see that it picked up the loop, the very first loop. You can see now it's at 110.71 beats per minute, and I can put the flash on, I can times, I can divide, and that's really, really handy. Now, if you make a mistake with this loop, you can flick down and we can go clear, or we can re-record, and you can do both of these whilst it's playing. If you want more information about that specific loop, flick up, and this shows you the actual loop itself, the volume of the loop, the balance, the pitch, the speed, and you can adjust that in time with everything else, which is incredible. There's an entire menu for each individual one. Also about the settings, the global settings, the orange group settings opposed to the lime group settings. It gets really, really deep, but let's just stay how it is for now. So we've got 4 loops, 2 are orange and 2 are yellow. Now I can do exactly as I've done before in Loopy HD. I can tap them to actually mute them or stop them. As we hit play, they're still playing, but they're just muted at the moment. Now as I tap it, it cues it for me, but you can change it so it taps instantly. And there we go. So it automatically stopped the project because no loops were playing. So why are there different coloured loops? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, and this is why the bottom half of this exists. So we've got these icons at the bottom of the screen that I've not talked about yet, and the reason for that is because this is the part which makes it Loopy Pro. Bottom left-hand corner, you can see we've got 3 little faders, and if we tap on that, that's a mixer, and that mixer we can actually manipulate, and it's by color that you can do it with. So at the moment we've got the input, and you can see there it's bouncing up and down as I'm talking, and the destinations of that input are actually dictated by color. So we've got mute, solo, we've got balance left and right for the channel. We've got the fader itself, and we can move that up and down. And we've got sends, we can create a new buzz. We've got the destinations where that is going, so therefore the mic input can go to only certain ones. So if you've got multiple ins, like an audio interface, you could have the guitar only going into certain loops and the vocal only going into certain loops, for example. If you're using an AUV3 plugin and you're bringing another audio source in, then that could be dictated to only perform on certain loops as well. Then within that, you've also got the audio output channels where that's going as well. At the moment, it's just going stereo, but if you then had a multi-out audio interface, of course, that would work as well. And then you've got effects, and you've got pre-fader effects and post-fader effects. This is huge, and this is something that was kind of being tapped into with Loopy HD, kind of using Audio Bus or AUV3. People put it into different doors just so they could get effects in or effects out of Loopy HD. It's now built in to Loopy Pro. And don't worry, you can have more than one effect, you can have multiple effects. So we've got all our effects here. I could just add a reverb, and then we could just add another one, and it's no problem at all. It's down to the processing power of your device. If you want to get rid of an effect, all you do is just hold your finger down on it, click delete, and it's gone. Additionally, while we're in this section, the very top of here, it just shows you the color, and you can actually change the color if you want to. You can change the color of anything if you want to. Now, the left-hand side at the top, you can see this sort of little donut loop icon above effects, and if we tap on there, then this switches the loops around, and we can actually adjust the volume and the panning of each individual loop. So you just draw your finger over it, and you can move it left or right. What's really clever, if you want to get really into it, you just drag outside of the circle, and you can just dial really in, which is really clever. I think that's really, really nice. So we've got plus 24 dB, and we've got minus to infinity, so we're not going to do that. And it does snap back if you go back to 0, and we can just move the fader back however you want it, wherever you need it. Press that again, it flicks back over to the loops. Now the bottom left-hand corner, we've got a plus button, and this is to add more channels. So if we want to add another channel, we can add a color, we can add a hardware input, add an audio unit input, add MIDI, or add a bus. This is cool. This is a mixer that's completely modular inside a looper that you don't have to then root out and root back in again for the loops that you have, and you dictate which channel the loops get sent to. So if I was to add another color, you can see there purple's jumped in. We've got no purple loops yet. So how do we get more loops? I'm so glad you asked. On the bottom right-hand corner, and we'll come back to the other icons in a second, this is where we can add more loops. So if I tap here, it adds another loop, and we can tap here, and this adds a one-shot box. But I want to move these around, they're not in the order I want them in. So this is where the little pencil comes in on the bottom left-hand corner. When we tap this, we enter an entirely new realm. And this is the one thing that's going to change Loopy Pro because it's completely customizable. How customizable, I hear you ask? Well, so at the bottom here, you can see you've got loads of little things. What are they? Well, we start with a loop. Then we've also got a one shot. Then we've got a button. This button could be to trigger something or to turn something on or turn 6 things on at once. Then we've also got a dial. Again, you can dial things in and out, the amount of something, the volume, the amount of reverb on something. Then you've got a horizontal slider and a vertical slider. Then you also have an XY pad that you can control anything with. So you could maybe use it for an effect. That would be quite a simple thing to do. But then as you pull it down, it could actually pull down the tempo temporarily. You've even got a slicer. So this is the slicer. It's really cool. You assign it to one of the samples and it will start chopping it up in however many parts that you want, up to 16 parts. That's by default, by the way. You can actually change that, so it's not 16, it can actually be even more, or it could just be 4. But they call it a button grid, but it's kind of like a slicer really. And then finally, you've got text, and you can put that text anywhere you want. By the way, these are all manageable, and these are all movable, and these are all resizable. So if I tap on one, it says, do you want to copy or delete it? You can see there's 4 little dots either side of it. If I give it a tap, and then what I can do is I can just resize it however I want. So you can do this with all of them, and you can rearrange this however you want it to be. And then additionally to all of that, what I can now do is I can group loops together. Hang on, JP, I thought loops were grouped together by the mixer. No, they're not. They're actually grouped by color, but you can also group them in a completely different way as well. So what you could do is not just loops, you can group maybe effects, or you can group a button to turn on something on. So we can actually go into grouping, and this is the group editor where we can start grouping things together. So maybe you want the top row as a verse, the bottom row as a chorus, but you want to put the bass always on channel 1 and the hi-hats always on channel 2, things like that. Do you see where we're going with this? It is huge, and it's one of these things which I think is going to be an absolute massive game changer. Now the thing is, you do have a mixer there at any one point, but what you can also do as well by using the edit tool, we can actually bring in faders. You could have them as volume controls for maybe just the orange ones or just the verses, and we can group things together. So let's group stuff over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally just nudge one loop against the other, and what that does is it creates a number 1, and then we can just drag these over as well. There we go, and that creates a number 2. So now these are grouped. What I can do is I can edit the group and tell the group what to do, whether they play together or not. So if we go back to the normal loops, you can now see there's a bit of a grey haze around each one, and you can have different ones grouped together. It depends on how you've got it. It's just that I've got them horizontally for this example. So now in the grouping, you can see there's 3 little lines on any of them, so we can just tap one of them and you can say all loops play and mute together, or one loop at a time. So if you want an A, B, C, or a verse, chorus, bridge, you could have it in that way. Also, it's mutually exclusive with group number 2. If you've got 9 groups, you can choose which group plays in sequence if you really wanted to. So how do you save it like this? Well, all you need to do is just get out of there. Now it's just flipped back over to the performance side as opposed to the edit side, and they're ready to roll. If you program them up properly, then these obviously just work and you can use them as you see fit. Obviously to save this, we can go to the top left-hand corner, and then what we can do is we can go save project, and that will save it as it is right now, with the loops, with the settings, with the colors, with the groups, with everything. Now I'm just going to get rid of everything else that we talked about because I just want to stick to the loops that we had. Okay, so I've kept the purple loops, but other than that, we're pretty much back to the way we were. Now, if you want to get rid of a loop super quick, you can tap the X, they spin round, you can see the little X on there. If I tap it, it's gone. But don't fear, we've got the undo at the top, so I can click undo and it can bring it back, no problem. This is completely non-destructive. The last icon I've not talked about is the one that looks like a load of lines going horizontally, and this is the sequencer. Now we've got audio which is inside here, and this completely changes the look of it. It shows you how many loops we've got there. What I can do is I can just literally use my finger and tap, and I can add in the loops if I want to manually, whatever I want to do. Obviously I don't have anything on this side here, so it'll just end up with an empty box. And then if I hit play, it will play them in sequence, and I can still get access to the volumes, I can still get access to the loops. You can just move forwards and backwards, and you can see there that those loops have stopped because that the sequencer is taking control of this. So if you wanted to create something that was part backing track, part live, you could do this because you could use the sequencer. And now that we've got something in there, it shows a little dot at the top there to say that's being used, and also it says SEQ sequence to show the sequencer is being used in this performance. Now, one thing about the sequencer, you saw there that I was tapping them on and off just to basically show you very quickly, but you can, if you want to, drag them and just loop them. Then if you just tap them again, you've got the option to copy and delete. So it moves really, really quickly, and you can duplicate really quickly too. Now, if you're in the middle of a performance and you realize you just suddenly need a quick another loop, or you just need another one shot real quick, bottom right hand corner, you can see here there is loop and there is one shot, and you can just bring them in straight away really quickly. But bear in mind, there will be the last color that you use, so therefore the magenta, they've stayed on magenta. But there's nothing stopping you and then changing that over and changing the color of it in the performance. You could do that if you wanted to, but what I would say is maybe program this up and then have it how you want it. So the next question really is, how many loops or how much can this handle? Well, if I just carry on pressing the loops and we carry on and carry on, let's put some one shots in there while we're waiting, and we just carry on and we carry on and we carry on. It's as much as your device can handle. Now, it's just adding loops in right now, and you can see the bottom right hand corner how much percentage it's using, and it's saying 1%. Let's start this sequence and let's add more things in. So you can see there I've got like 7 loops playing straight away. It's using about 1%. But then we start using things like effects, and that's where it really starts ramping up the CPU power. Got to delete all these now. There we go. Now, 2 things I want to show you straight away. When you start getting into the sequencer, you may want to turn the sequencer off because you want to do a live performance. What you can do, where it says SEQ, you can tap that and then it goes black. And what that means is do not play the sequencer. I'm just playing with the live loops right now. Or if it's white, it means the sequencer is in control of the loops. You can still override that if you want to, but it's just a nice little thing. So maybe you've created a track at home and you've created it with the sequencer. It's a really nice groove. You like it and you're probably going to release it, but you also want to play it live. So you can turn the sequencer off, and then you can actually perform it live to an audience. That way the sequence is not in control, you are, and you can make it a unique performance. So this is an overview of Loopy Pro, and believe me, we're going to have lots more videos to come around this app. But I don't want to stop there, and I want to show you something that I've created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load one of my projects, which is called Brand New Session. And as you can see here, I've created a 5-track looper with 5 loops inside each track. So we've got the magenta one track 1A to 1E, and then 2A to 2E. Each one has got its own volume control anyway, and then we can also go into the mixer if you want to. They've got a play stop for each one, so I can stop each section, and then we've also got stop and start all. Now I've set up quick access for the times and the divide just above and below start and stop all, which of course starts and stop the whole thing. Now you can do that with this play button anyway, but it's just nice to have a big old start stop button. Now anything that's purple, like purple squares, is a one shot, and that's fine, but the one shots actually can be brought into any looper. So have a look at the channel here, and you can see that the purple ones, actually the destinations are all the color destinations apart from itself. So maybe I could create a kick drum, a snare, and a hi-hat with my mouth, a little bit like beatboxing, and then I could play them manually on one of the tracks. On the top right hand corner, we've got a track effects, which is on track 1, and that is a band effect on a XY pad. And at the bottom there, you can see we've got 3 effects. One is the reverb. We've got a band pass, which helps with that track effects, and we've also got an analog delay rack. So if I drill into that, you can see that is from Nembrani Audio, and that is just bringing that in on any track on the input. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you this to download, because one thing you can do is you can share your projects. This is a completely empty project. It's got no audio on it whatsoever. It's just an empty shell for you to start playing with and get one up, so you can start messing with it straight away. You could edit it, you could play with it, you can completely erase it if you wanted to. So it's going to be in the description box below, so you can download it and then put it on your iPhone or your iPad. And as Michael said said from a Tasty Pixel, soon Loopy Pro is going to be available on the Mac. Now, I hope you found that useful, guys. Let me know what you think of Loopy Pro in the comments section below. Have you got it yet? Have you started with it? Have you been playing with Loopy HD and you need a little bit more? Well, then Loopy Pro is the answer, and it is one of those golden goose apps that only comes around once in the blue moon. And I don't say that lightly. I know everyone goes, this is the greatest app ever for every single app that comes out here. Anyone who's into looping, or you want to create songs and sequence all in one place and then bring everything in, but then you design the user interface for how you use it, then Loopy Pro could very well be the answer that you're looking for. This is the first of many videos that I'm going to be doing about Loopy Pro, and I'm going to make a playlist that I'll add to that playlist, and that'll be in the description box of every video that I do, so you can go and binge watch everything I make about Loopy Pro. Thank you very much for watching, folks. I hope you enjoy it. Get looping, and I'll see you on the next one.